Hey friends, welcome to Living the KG Life, a pixie dust-filled podcast. On today's episode, we have Katie Vining joining us to talk all about the Disney College Program. So stick around, it's going to be great. All right, Katie, thank you so much for joining us for another episode. Today, Katie's going to be talking about her experience with the Disney College Program. So go ahead and give us, for folks who have not listened to your Backstage with Katie Vining episode yet, give everyone a quick intro, tell us who you are and what you do.
Hi, everyone. My name is Katie. I was an almost 8-year cast member. I worked at Disney from 2014 all the way up until 2021. I am definitely an avid Disney lover, proud Disney adult, turned my boyfriend proud Disney adult. Welcome to the universe. But now I am a full-time content creator on YouTube. So I basically do like shop with me and home decorating videos where I shop at all my favorite stores. I'm definitely known for like Target Tuesday. That's definitely my bread and butter. So if you love Target, I definitely think you will love my YouTube channel.
You will
I just shop around the stores.
love her channel.
No stone is left unturned. I show you everything that's new at Target. I basically am just people's eyes into what is new at the stores in case they're not able to go for any number of reasons. I just show them what is new, any good clearance deals that they might be able to find while giving my best home decorating tips in the process.
Be forewarned, you will want to go shopping. You will want to decorate your house. Can confirm. So, as we mentioned, Katie's going to be talking about the Disney College Program. But before DCP, let's talk about your earliest Disney memory or what made you fall in love with Disney.
So my earliest Disney memory is definitely going there in 2001 was the first time I ever went, and we went with cheerleading. Medford Pop Warner, woo, go Colts.
Yes.
And it was just so amazing. Like the Medford Pop Warner program at the time was just totally on fire. Like the teams were really great. We always made it to nationals. So I was really excited when it was finally my turn to get to be able to go because I saw Kristen getting to go and Jen got to go. So I was really excited that like my team won and we got our chance to go. And the first time as a really big family trip, I went with like some of my siblings went, like Jackie went, I think Steven went, my mom went, my biological dad went, my stepdad went. It was a really, really big trip. That is definitely my earliest memory is just going with everybody, you know, going in the World Showcase, cheering. I think what ended up happening is that we won first place at every single competition leading up to it. And then during our routine, one of the girls went to go do a front somersault and fell over and we didn't win. So,
oh no.
And we were amazing, but unfortunately on the somersault.
So you've gone to Disney as a kid through cheering.
Mm-hmm.
What was it that actually made you fall in love with Disney as a whole?
I think it was just the magic of it. Like a lot of people, like I grew up in a very like tumultuous environment and Disney was just so different. Like it was just so magical and you could kind of just forget that anything else was like going on because Disney is like a whole experience. You eat, sleep, breathe. It's like all encompassing. All of your senses are like touched on at Disney, like the sights, the smells, the tastes, the sounds. And it just kind of like helped to really distract me from like anything else that could possibly be going wrong or have gone wrong. And I just loved it, like how magical it was. It just like made me so happy. I just always felt like I was like the best version of myself at Disney. My biological dad loved Disney. So I feel like I kind of got that love from him. He has passed away and I did inherit, I guess, a lot of Disney items that he had that are really old now and probably worth a lot of money, like really nice vintage Mickey Mouse watches, the really, really old opening day Disney leather jacket. That's amazing. Yeah. So I just kind of feel like it was like in my blood, like he loved it. And I feel like I kind of loved it too. I feel very connected to him being down here and like working for Disney, which is something I like never really talk about, but it's just like has always helped me to feel really connected to him because I feel like he loved it and I just feel like I got that from him.
Yeah, that's so nice. And such a different perspective too, because obviously you grew up here. That's all the way down there. So it's like still having like a piece of home down there with you, which is
Yeah.
so now for this episode, we're going to talk about the Disney College Program. Give everyone who's like, what the heck is that? Quick overview. What is the Disney College Program and like, how does it work?
So the Disney College Program is a paid internship. So you come down for a semester. They have either the spring program or the fall program. The spring program goes from January until July, and then the fall program goes from like July, August through January. You can do like longer programs. You can extend your program and stay for up to a year. I did the fall program, which in my personal opinion is the best, not because I did it, but just because you're there through all the holidays.
Yeah, I feel like that's a no-brainer.
Yeah, so you get to be there through Christmas, Thanksgiving, New Year's, Halloween, and also like you get like the best weather as well, because it really starts to get really, really nice in November, which I'm so thankful that it is like now going to be November, because it's been brutally hot here, which you do get used to the longer that you live here, but you definitely look forward to the days when it's a lot cooler. But yeah, so the Disney College Program, they have the two programs, and I came down through the holidays, which is the best. A lot of people, maybe it's their first time being away from home and they don't want to be away from their family for the holidays, because that's another really big part of it that a lot of people don't talk about or think about as a cast member in general, not just doing the college program. But it's a paid internship where you do a role that's like non-tips. So you work like attractions, parade audience control, you work in the retail shops, you can be a hostess at a restaurant, you can be a slide operator. So it's a very magical experience. You live on site, technically on Disney property. When I lived there, I lived at Vista Way. So anyone who's listening that did the college program would know, but those complexes actually don't exist anymore. The kids who came back now who do the college program since COVID, since it reopened, they live at the new Disney housing, which is like beautiful and amazing. And you only have one person in your room. It's just you. I had bunk beds and there was 3 of us in one bedroom.
Oh my, so it was like college dorms.
Oh yeah. Well, we had 6 people in one apartment. We had one fridge, and it was awful and magical and amazing. All at once.
Now, true or false, the only requirement is that you are enrolled in at least one college class.
True. Definitely true. Because half the people I know, all you have to have is like a college email.
That is wild. I remember someone that I had worked with in a previous role who actually like in his adult life went back to school and for one of his semesters went and worked at Disney World during the DCP. And I was like, hold on a second.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, tell me as an adult how I can go do DCP because I'm in.
You don't even have to live on site. Like you can live off site and do the DCP. So you don't like have to live like in the dorm housing. Honestly, the dorm housing is astronomically expensive and it's 1,000 times cheaper to get your own apartment, but it's definitely like part of the experience. Like when you're doing it, like especially when you're like in college to like live in the housing.
Yeah. Now, what made you apply for the Disney College Program?
So I had a teacher in my high school who told me about it. She had done it a long time ago when it like first started, I guess. And she just thought that it would be a really good fit for me. She just thought that I would love it. And I always just kind of kept that in the back of my mind. And then when it was time for me to start like thinking about it, I knew I wanted to do it, but I also was very torn between doing the DCP or semester at sea.
Ooh.
And I still always think about semester at sea. If you don't know, it's you live on a cruise ship for a semester. Every voyage has like a different itinerary, but you get to like learn about the different countries and like have different experiences in the countries. And I was very, very torn about doing either the DCP or semester at sea. Obviously, my life would be completely different now if I didn't do the DCP. Yeah. So obviously like I don't regret it at all, but has always been a really big dream of mine to either do semester at sea. And then after that, it kind of translated into, well, maybe someday I'll do a contract with Disney Cruise Lines. Now I always think about it whenever I talk about it. I always say that that ship has sailed, pun intended. I have 3 dogs and an amazing boyfriend, and there's just no way I could ever, especially be away from my dogs for 4 months. So there's just no way, but it's definitely a huge dream of mine and something I will definitely push my kids to do something like that if they're interested in it, because I'm pretty sure my kids are going to grow up with Disney World in their backyard, like 99% sure. So working there, I'm sure will just be a given, but I would love to push them to do like the cruise lines or something, if that's something that they're interested in, because it's something that I wish I would have done.
That's so cool. For people that either don't know what DCP is, haven't heard much about it, take us through the process. So from application all the way through to getting placed and then starting your first job.
Okay, so it's like a pretty long process. For me, I remember I'm sure it's the same way, but like when it was a big thing. Like when the application was gonna drop, there's Facebook pages, like there's like the hopefuls Facebook page. So it was like fall 2014, like FA and fall, because there's fall advantage. There's two different programs and hopefuls. And then, people be like, I applied or I got my first interview. So you have your first interview. So the first step is joining the Facebook pages. That was a big thing when I went. And people would just like talk and you start to make friends and stuff. And some of those friends don't end up getting into the program, but we'll get there. So you start meeting some people, you get really excited, and then the application drops. It's just like any normal application. You can upload your resume. Kind of the secret is pulling the keywords from any Disney application. If you want to work for Disney, you have to look at the keywords at the bottom and make sure those are in your resume, because it's a computer that weeds out people initially, because thousands of people apply to every job at Disney, not even just the college program. So a computer will weed you out immediately if you don't have the keywords in your resume. So that's definitely a big one. Let's say, okay, woohoo, you made it. You're going to get the first interview. So the first interview you do for the college program and any Disney job is the WBI, which is the web-based interview. So the web-based interview is basically a personality test. Nobody wants to admit that that's what it is, but it's a personality test. They ask you the same question worded 67 different ways to make sure that like this is for you. You are the right type of person that can handle people and working at Disney and like have the patience, and that's what it is. So immediately at the end of the web-based interview, they let you know if you're moving on to a phone interview or like if that's the end of the road for you. So I got through to the phone interview, and the phone interview is the scariest thing ever, because everyone always says like you want to make sure you're like smiling, because you know how like when you're talking to someone, like you can hear if they're smiling or not, and like genuinely like having a good time, like even if you don't see them. I had my phone interview, and in the phone interview, they ask you lots of questions like, tell me about a time you encountered this and how you dealt with it. Tell me about this. And, I had all that. They ask you what roles you would want to work, because basically when you do the original application, you have to put like highly interested, kind of interested, or not interested at all. And if there's a role you do not want to do not put interest in it. Like if you are like, I do not want to do custodial, or I do not want to be a lifeguard, don't even put like moderate interest, because that's the role they're going to give you. So do not put that you're interested in it.
So it's not like a bad thing to say I'm not interested in a role. No, just be honest.
No, but don't put like I'm only interested in being a character attendant, or like I'm only interested in doing the Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique, because there's so many less people that get accepted for those roles. Just know if you're going to do the college program, you're probably either going to be a lifeguard, work in a retail store, be a hostess at a restaurant. Like those are like the biggest roles that you're going to do. I did my phone interview. I told her I really don't want to work in a restaurant, but like if that's how I'm going to get accepted to the DCP, like I will do it, because I had only food and beverage experience up until that point. I had been hostess, server, and at the time it was called full service food and beverage. And like, I really want to do something different. Like I want to operate a slide at a water park. I wanted to go and do something fun. I didn't actually want to do anything that had anything to do with like what I wanted to do in life. I just wanted to like go and do something really different and fun. Well, I ended up being a seater at boat rides at Port Orleans Riverside, which I ended up loving. Obviously, I was super comfortable in my role, and I loved working at the resorts. I was initially really disappointed because I was like, I want to work in the parks, but you just don't know like until you do it. And there's definitely people who are parks people and people who are resorts people. I love the resorts specifically because you get to make real relationships with the guests, because you're seeing the same guests almost every single day, whether they're just like walking past the podium to go to the quick service, or they stop by at the end of their trip, like to say bye, or they come by every day to say hi. You just really get to know people because you're going to see them more than once. So that's why I loved all my experiences working in the resorts. It's just so different than the parks. But yeah, so I was a seater at boat rides at Port Orleans Riverside. I got to wear this amazing sunflower dress that had this like really cute Southern apron over it. And I absolutely loved my costume. Disney costumes are known to be like very ugly and uncomfortable, but I really loved mine. I truly, truly love mine. There is a secret video of me hidden out there jumping into the Vista Way pool, fully in my costume. That definitely would have gotten me fired.
If you saw it, yeah. No, you didn't.
Literally, truly. If you saw that video, no, you didn't. So I'm actually going to back up.
Okay.
So you do the phone interview, then the waiting starts. Literally a few months of waiting. And then the waves of acceptances start. And everyone is like, oh my God, they're doing it by last name. Oh my, well, what day did you have your phone interview? People like would analyze, but it was just so random. But people were so desperate to know that they just would try to find like some sort of like pattern or rhythm as to like why people were getting accepted. Oh, well, they're only accepting like quick service food and beverage, or you know what I mean? Like, it's just so crazy.
The conspiracy theories of the DCP.
Oh my God. Like it was so big. The process is so different now. So for us, you found out your role right when you got accepted, but you didn't know your location till you checked into housing. Now they get their whole itinerary a week before they get there. So they know where they're going to live. For us, you didn't know where you were going to live. You got to give preferences because there used to be 4 different housing complexes. You got to give preferences and you got to like link with people, like who you wanted to live with. But you didn't truly know if you were going to get to live with them, where you were going to work, and where you were going to live until you were in Florida at the check-in process. So it was pretty
I would
scary.
not do well with that.
Yeah, it
I'm
was
self-aware enough
really
to know.
scary. I actually got very lucky because I was with the girls I wanted to room with. I was standing with all of them and we were in the super long line, and all of a sudden they opened up a second line. They're like, anyone with the last name M through Z. Never in my life has the last name Vining helped me out, except for this. I've always hated having a last name at the end of the alphabet. My whole life, I've always said I want to marry someone with the last name A through M. That is what I want. Brian has a J, so we are good. Checks out.
Check.
But it's just, I feel like it's really hard to have a last name at the end of the alphabet because you're waiting a lot for like to be called in class or to be called at graduation and things like that. So I actually got to like skip the whole line and find out before any of them where we were going to be living and where I was going to be working. So yeah, there's months of waiting before you get accepted. I can vividly remember where I was when I got accepted. I was in the kitchen at my serving job at Seasons 52, scooping ice. When my phone went off, I had it on loud. Disney is a VIP for my email, so it made this magical little sound. So I knew I got my email from Disney. I was holding 2 ice buckets, dropped them. They shattered.
Oh no.
The buckets shattered because they're just plastic ice buckets. Ice and plastic went everywhere. I took out my phone, read it, and dropped my knees and just started hysterically crying. I was like, I'm out of here. I'm going to Disney. It was like my Super Bowl moment.
I was just going to say, true, like, I'm going to Disney World.
Yeah. It was very, very, very magical to get accepted. And I just remember that moment like it was yesterday. So it truly is like such a life-changing experience. It changed the entire trajectory of my entire life. So I love the DCP.
Amazing. And so once you're placed, do you stay at that role for your entire time with the program? Or do people bounce around at all?
So it really depends on your role. So in my role, I was like trained specifically at boat rights. I knew all the table numbers and the way that we did things. So like I couldn't really go work anywhere else. But if you're like in retail, you were cross trained. So you could work at like basically any real retail location. Attractions, you could be cross trained and work at different attractions. So everyone's experience is really different. My experience was really hard because I did not work as many hours as a lot of people. So I struggled because they take the rent right out of your pay. So like I basically had nothing left like after they took the rent, because my rent was $92 a week and they would take it directly out of my paycheck. And I worked 5 days a week and my restaurant was only open for dinner. So I worked like 5-hour shifts, 5 days a week, and you're supposed to be guaranteed 32 hours. So it was like a huge issue, my whole college program, trying to figure out where I could get more hours, and it never ended up working out. So I missed out on a lot of experiences that I didn't get to do because I didn't have money when I was on the college program. Like I never got to go to Universal on my college program. I didn't go to Horror Nights on my college program or do any of this other stuff people were doing because like I had to save money to be able to like eat and survive.
Right. If you're only working pretty much night shifts, then like...
Yeah, you said it limits your schedule because there was only one other CP at my location. So I only had one person I could really switch shifts with. Whereas when you're at like Space Mountain, you can have hundreds of people you can trade shifts with, and your schedule is way more flexible. You can give away your shift, people will pick it up. Because most of the time in the lands, like Tomorrowland, Frontierland, you're trained at like all the rides. So you can like pick up anywhere. So there's a lot more options. So I had a really tough work experience while I was there. It's definitely not glamorous no matter what you're doing, but I struggled a lot with like money and like my schedule. But of course, I only remember the positive memories now that we're sitting here talking about it. I'm like, oh yeah, like I forgot about all that. Like that was really hard. But clearly I loved it enough to go back. So it wasn't all bad.
And so talk about that. So you've done how many like rounds of a college program? Or did you go from the college program right to full-time employee, like a non-college program employee?
So I was a CP from August of 2014 through January of 2015.
I can't believe it was that long ago.
I know. I turned 21 on the college program and now I'm 28. Like what? That's wild. So crazy. I moved home in January of 2015 and then moved back to Disney in May of 2016. So I was home for like a year and a half. My sister Jen, also Kristen's sister Jen, had the twins right when I moved home.
Yep.
So that was super exciting. I was like, okay, yay, like I get to be here. And like I got to spend like a ton of time with them when they were really little, which was important to me because I got to do the same thing with Josie when she was a baby.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to have kids so bad. So I feel like I like lived through my siblings and like their children where I'm like, what does it feel like to live my dream? Like it's literally my dream.
Can you tell that
So
Katie is the youngest?
yeah, I'm the youngest. So it's so hard. Like now that we're all adults, I'm like, oh yeah, like it's almost my turn. We're all doing the same thing. Yeah, I know adult struggles. I live those.
Yeah.
And it was hard growing up because I always wanted to be in the life positions that they were in. So it's interesting now to like all be adults. But yeah, so I got to come home and spend a lot of time with like family. That was really good. And then I moved back. So I only did one round of the DCP. And then I applied for a serving position and got accepted for that and had to be there within like 10 days to start.
Oh shit. There was no
Yeah,
messing
so
around.
yeah, so it worked out perfectly where because I waited on the server waiting list for a couple months. It worked out where I was graduating, like walking at college graduation, having my graduation party, and then I literally left the next day, like the way that the timing worked out. I can always just specifically remember like where I am when I find stuff out. I was in the Forever 21 dressing room when I got accepted to be a server at Disney World. I was at the Grand Floridian Cafe, which is one of my favorite restaurants. I feel like it's such a hidden gem at Disney, but yeah, it's just like all those like big Disney moments have just stuck with me like as like such like positive memories. It's just hard because with Disney, like I just feel like so many people want to work there. So like actually getting the opportunity to do it is like just if you really want it, it's just amazing.
Ugh.
I said this on our last episode if you heard, but 50,000 kids apply to the college program every semester and like less than 3,000 get accepted.
That's wild. Pure numbers wise, that's crazy.
Yeah. So it's like it was really amazing that like I got in the first time. Like it was definitely a really, really big deal. It was just amazing to get accepted the first time. But I did face a lot of rejection when it came to doing like the next level of internships because with Disney, there's a couple different levels. So there's the DCP, which is the Disney College Program. You can stay on and do the DCP, or if there's more like of a specific area of Disney you would like to work in the future, they have PIs or MIs. So a PI is a professional internship. So you can work in like marketing, Imagineering, those sorts of things. So you can move from the DCP into a PI, but you have to have done the college program to do a professional internship.
Okay.
And then if you want to be a manager with Disney, so my college degree is specifically in management. I have a bachelor's degree in management with a concentration in hospitality. So clearly I was in the right place. I wanted to do a management internship. So that's an MI, but you don't have to do a PI to do an MI. It's just, if you want to work in specific or if you want to be a manager, they have like two different sectors. I faced a lot of rejection trying to get a management internship. Like that was even more selective because you're going to be a manager like at Disney. So I faced a ton of rejection. It took me, I think it was my third or fourth time until I finally got it, but I didn't give up because I knew that's what I wanted. And it was the best way to get my foot in the door to be a manager at Disney.
Amazing. Now, if you think back in your time during the college program, what would you say is your favorite memory from DCP?
Oh my God, my favorite memory of the DCP. I made like the best friends while I was there. Like one of them is Eddie, who's like still one of my best friends to this day. But I would have to say like just meeting everybody and just probably like at the end of the college program, you have a DCP graduation where you get like a Mickey grad cap, you get a diploma, like a bachelor's in like Disney University or whatever.
Love that.
So they have this like whole thing and that's really magical. You can meet Mickey and Minnie in like grad caps and gowns and things like that.
Cute.
But just the memories that I made with the friends that I made there at the very end, we did a whole photo shoot at Magic Kingdom where we like threw our caps up and just like those memories that I made with like the people that I met there.
And now you had mentioned in the other episode, we talked about just kind of like cast member life. You mentioned traditions. So do people in the college program go through the same traditions training that cast members go through, or do they do separate trainings for those?
So for traditions for the college program is just for college program kids. So it technically is the same traditions, but whereas like other traditions, you can be like a mix of different roles, different levels. You could be coming from like Disneyland to Disney World. Like you'll have such a mix of people. Whereas the ones for the college program are all kids that are like brand new to the
Yeah.
college program. You're all like so excited to be there. The energy is very different. The energy at like a college program traditions, because you get bussed over in these giant buses. Like they're like, okay, this is your traditions time. Get on the bus. And everyone's like, oh my God, I'm so excited. But then like when you go to like a regular traditions, even though it's the same thing, it's like, you know, people from all walks of life, and they're like really pissed they had to wake up at like 7 a.m. because class started or whatever. So it's the same traditions, but it's just like, it's different. Like even though it's the same material, it's a very, very different feel.
And now you said you've gone through traditions a couple times, right?
Yeah. So I went through traditions. I went through it when I was a college programmer. And then there's like a certain time limit where like if you left the company and you come back within like so much time, you don't have to do it again, or you do. And I think it's like 2 years. But because of when I took it when I was on the college program versus like when I came back, it like had just been just enough time where like I had to do it again. And I was like, oh no, I don't want to. AKA like I really want to.
Yeah. Inject it right into my veins, please.
Seriously. So I did it the second time when I came back, when I moved back permanently.
Awesome. And what would you say are the best parts of DCP and the worst parts of DCP?
Best parts of the college program are just kind of like being able to go to the parks whenever you want, and, you know, really like experiencing Disney, like living and breathing it, which is like such a special experience. And I feel like the college program is something that you absolutely cannot understand unless you like do it. It's just like an all-encompassing bubble. Nothing else in life matters. Nothing. It doesn't matter what's going on in the world. The world could literally be on fire, but you're like, I'm in Disney World. Like, it's so true.
And now, were you still taking classes too, or did you already graduate?
So I was technically a junior in college when I went. I still took a full 12 credit hour semester because I still wanted to graduate. I actually ended up graduating a semester early and walking. I graduated in December and I walked in May. So I was taking a full 12 credit hours, which was really hard because like none of my friends were. Everyone was taking the semester off or was doing it as their internship, which I also was doing it as my internship.
So you had the option. You could either take classes still, or it could count as your internship, or you could take the semester off.
Yeah. So everyone kind of has like a different experience. For me, I just felt like if I took a semester off, like I just didn't even ever want to like jeopardize like not finishing.
Yeah.
I am going to take this opportunity to say this story. I am the first person in my family to graduate college. And it was just really important to me. Like, I didn't really like have family to like look at and be like, oh, like if we go to college. So it was like never really even a thought in my mind. And so none of my whole life would have been possible without Jen and Aaron, basically. I remember one day Jen came to me and she's like, when are you taking the SATs? And I was like, oh, I'm not. And she's like, what do you mean you're not? Like, what about college applications? I was like, oh, I'm not going to college. And she's like, what are you talking about? She's like, no, you're taking the SAT. And her and Aaron signed me up and paid for me to take the SATs twice. So I took it the first time. They're like, okay, we'll do it a second time, you know, see if like you get a different score, a better score, you know, now that you like know what to expect. Cause I didn't like practice or anything. Like, I didn't think that like people in my family didn't go to college. So I was like, oh, I guess we don't go to college. Maybe I'll go to Bunker Hill someday, community college, which is like totally fine. She really pushed me. Like they signed me up and pushed me. They picked me up, they dropped me off, and they helped me with college applications. And I went to college and like had the entire life that I have because they were like wanting me to have better than what they had. And they didn't want me to just succumb to what I had known. They pushed me to like be better. And anytime Aaron and I even like look at each other, we get really emotional because I know that I wouldn't be where I am without him. I'm like literally getting emotional. And like he's just proud of me and like what I've done with my life and like how I've pushed for like the things that I wanted and like cultivated the exact life I couldn't have even dreamed of.
Yeah. And for everyone listening, we both are not well right now. But it's so true, and it's so important to have, you know, Jen and Aaron are both incredible people to have, and I'm so glad that they pushed you to not only do something for yourself, but look at how far you've come. And like you said earlier, I forget if it was this episode or the other one that we've recorded, but you have busted your ass to get through school, to have the life that you have. So you should also be really proud of the hard work that you've put in to get where you are today too.
Yeah. Anyways, love you, Jen. Love you, Aaron, so much. None of this would have even been possible like if I didn't like have them. So I know I don't always like take the moment to admit all that. So let it be on record that like their like contribution to my life has been like more significant than anyone's. So
Amazing. And if you think about too what you were just saying about like how many memories you were able to create through DCP and like being able to experience that, think about how much of that wouldn't have been possible if they weren't like, nope, you're taking your SATs, you're gonna go,
yeah.
we're gonna drive you there, we're gonna make sure it happens.
Yeah, they were like, "No, you're doing it." And I'm like, "Oh, why?" And now I look back and I'm like, "Oh my God, thank God." Like literally, thank God. Yeah, I mean, I continued on with my classes and I worked really hard because I like wanted to get that degree. Like I really, really wanted to finish. And like I can't even imagine like what my life would be like if they didn't like push me to just be better and just like be the best and see my true potential.
And being able to say, I know that I can work a job, I can go through my classes, I can be a part of this Disney bubble and experience,
Mhm.
regardless of what level of cast member you are. There's a lot of pressure, I would assume,
Oh
to
yeah.
be creating this really great experience. So you're a college kid, you're taking your classes, trying to live your life, you're not making a ton of money, so you're trying to literally survive. And then the other part of your
Mhm.
job is to go and make magic for everybody else and actually like put
Mhm.
all of your like happy, positive, fun vibes out there for other people. How are you able to, I guess, focus and still have all that energy to go through your classes, work through your college program, and then have your college program actually be your internship, be a Disney World cast member?
I guess for me, like before that, I didn't like know any different. Like I've
Yeah,
always worked full time through college. I worked as many hours as possible, even when I was in high school. Like the second I turned 16, I had a job and I worked because that's how I had money. Like my mom didn't have money to like give all the children and that she had. And like,
right.
so for me, if I wanted something, I had to like work for it and get it myself. Like once I turned 16, I guess I just didn't really like know any different. And I think like my work schedule, like as unfortunate as it seemed, it was like the only way that I was able to like continue on with my schoolwork and stuff. My teachers were really, really understanding. I went to a really small private school. You were not like a number, like you were like a person and they knew everything that went on in your life. And they were just like all like super understanding. So if I was like late with something, they knew like I was in this giant experience. Like it wasn't just I was down there and working. Like it's also, they really wanted me to have the experience. It was a combination of like me not ever knowing any different, being like, this is what I have to do. Like I have to go to work and I have to make sure I'm still having a good time. It was a combination of that and having like a really, really understanding like faculty of professors that also like wanted me to have the experience, but still stay on track.
Which is so important, finding those mentors in any kind of school setting. Not only encourage you, but empower you to say, yes, we know you're in school, but you're also doing all these other things. We want you to like experience life. So, did you have any during your time at your DCP? Did you have any traditions or must dos or things that you really loved when you were down there?
Yeah, so a big thing for the DCP is your DCP bucket list. I don't know if it's still this way, but this is how it was. And like when we did it, like everyone would make like a DCP bucket list of like things they really wanted to do, like while they were on the Disney College program. So things like 4 parks one day, bad ride day, where you go and ride like all the rides that like nobody likes or do like the shows that nobody does, like the Tiki Room, like a whole day of like Small World, Tiki Room, like just things like that are notoriously bad. So that's a really big thing. So just like traditions like that. So I had like my DCP bucket list. And there are just like other things that you get to do as a cast member, like backstage tours that like your location will put on. So things like that were like my must do's. Conquering my DCP bucket list was like a big one. But it's also like things you want to do while you're there on the college program. Like you also want to visit Universal. I wanted to visit the beach, like things like that.
Yeah. Now, when you first went down for your DCP, was there any best practice that you learned that stuck with you?
I feel like the best practice that I learned is one that we touched on in my last episode, which is like pick a couple things or one thing each with the people that you're there with that you really, really want to do and make that the focus. And then anything else that you get to do is just a bonus.
Yeah. Since you just brought up a few different bucket lists, we're going to have to also touch upon that at some point and make some bucket lists. Now that I just renewed my annual pass and I officially closed on my DVC. So,
woohoo! So exciting.
Yes.
I know. I'm so excited that you'll be visiting even more because
yes.
you visit a lot. You're the family member I see more than anybody, which
Yeah.
is like my taste of home. So it's like always so nice. Like when you get to come and visit because you're the one I get to see more than anybody. I don't know. So I don't get to see family that often. Hopefully now that I don't work at Disney anymore, that changes.
Let's say someone came up to you and said, Katie, I'm a college student. I've heard about the Disney College program. I'm thinking about applying. I think it'd be really cool. What would be like your elevator pitch of why they should do it? And then what would be your advice when they apply?
The elevator pitch for like doing the college program, I would definitely say you get to live and work in Disney. It's definitely like a one of a kind, I want to say once in a lifetime experience, but some people do the college program several times. It's just like a one of a kind experience where you get to live and work in Disney simultaneously. It's just a different experience than anything you will ever get just by like going to the parks on your own or even just being a cast member. It's just such a unique experience that I would recommend for anyone that loves Disney. I do always tell people that you are working at Disney. It's not just there to like play and have fun. You do work the worst shifts. You're away from your family. You don't get time off. For instance, my sister Jackie got married while I was on the college program. And before I even left for the college program, I had to submit my flights. I had to submit a copy of her invitation to like prove that she was getting married. And that's
around.
Yeah, because I went during the busiest time as well. Like I went during the fall. So I was there August through January. So it's really hard for anyone to get time off. I don't know. If there's like a meme that goes around that's like, I wonder how terrified people would be if they knew that like the parks are run by like 17-year-olds past like 5 o'clock at night, because it's so true. It's like the Taylor Swift lyric, like we're happy, free, confused, and lonely at the same time. It's miserable and magical. Oh yeah. Like it's literally like, that is like the best way to sum up the Disney college program. Like it's miserable and magical at the same time.
Taylor always coming.
She always comes in. I remember I was texting with Jen when I was on the college program and I was telling her about how like this girl like kissed this boy that I liked or whatever. And I was telling her all about the drama. And she said the most iconic quote she's ever said that I've ever heard that says, Disney living ain't no fairy tale. And that needs to be the title of this episode. It's so magical and you're working at Disney and like, it's amazing. But then people forget that like it's just a job. Like you're still working retail.
Yeah,
you just work
real
at
life.
Yeah. Like when I was a server, like, yeah, it's amazing. But like half the time I would forget I was even in Animal Kingdom because I can't even see outside. Is it raining? I don't know. You tell me. Like you just came from there. What's going on in the park? Because you forget like you're coming in from backstage and like just entering in from the back. You're not like walking through Animal Kingdom and going on safari before you clock in for your shift. You could if you wanted to. You are allowed to do that stuff. It's just like any other restaurant. It was just like any other kitchen I had ever worked in. The difference was like I was just in the middle of a theme park.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good, realistic way to think about it too, is that like it is magical and amazing, but it also still is work. It's also still real life. It's still all the adult things that you have to like learn to do while you're in college as well.
Yeah.
So what would be the advice you would give to someone who's thinking about applying for the college program?
My biggest piece of advice is to wait as long as you can to do the college program in your college career. The earliest you can apply is the second semester of your freshman year. But I would say wait as long as you possibly can. So I would say either do it when you're done with college, like maybe start applying like the first semester of your senior year and kind of like get a feel for it and then try to get it for when you're done with college. Or if you want to do it in the middle of your college career, I would say do it like the second semester of your junior year, which is when I did it, because then you only have 1 year left. Because if you love it, you're going to want to stay. There are 3 scenarios that happen when you can do the college program. There's only 3. The first one is you absolutely love it and you don't want to leave, so you don't. And you either go to college at UCF or Valencia or one of the colleges here and you finish and you stay working at Disney. The second one is you go and you love it so much that you don't want to leave. So you like begrudgingly go home kicking and screaming. And then the third one is that you hate it so much you owed to never come back to Walt Disney World ever again in your whole life. And you just never do. So there's only 3 scenarios. You love it so much that you stay. You love it so much that you go finish and come back. Or you just hate it and you never go back to Walt Disney World ever in your whole life.
And do you feel like everyone that you were in your DCP with fall into one of those 3 buckets?
Yeah, for sure.
What would you say is the most common bucket that people end up in post DCP?
I would say the most common is that people don't leave.
Which is so crazy to think about.
That
like
I did not want to leave. They call it the DCP depression, like the post Disney college program depression. I mean, they have like the post Disney depression as well.
Yep, I feel that often.
But yeah, like the post DCP depression is so real. I was like lost, like so lost. And especially because I went home in January. It was blizzarding. It was cold. It was miserable. I just came from like the most magical Christmas you could ever imagine in your whole life. Most magical experience. I had a boyfriend that I left the college program with, and then we were long distance and I had never done anything like that before. And it was awful. Like the only saving grace was that Nate and Sam were born and I just like poured myself into that. But other than that, I was like, this is awful. I got a puppy like 2 months after that. I got Aurora because I knew that I was going to want to move back to Florida, and my mom had gotten attached to my dog that she watched while I was on the college program.
Mhm.
So I was like, well, I'm just going to get a puppy. I just need to pour myself into something because I'm miserable. So I got a puppy.
You also shared some advice earlier too that's really important to bring back around towards the end too, which is if you don't get in the first time, keep applying. Whether it's interview to do it for the first time, multiple times to get a job at Disney, it seems like that's something that you've, as long as we've ever talked about it, is like keep applying and like really think about why you really want to do it and keep that as kind of like your motivation to keep applying as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, rejection is so hard, but Disney is so competitive. Like so many people would love to work here, which is a pro and a con of working at Disney for sure. A lot of times it's really easy to feel like you're just a number, 005162899. Like I will be that for the rest of my life. It's really hard because whenever you like have a struggle with like working at Disney, like if something doesn't go the way you wanted it to, or if you get in trouble for something that's like totally unreasonable, because a lot of things that you can get in trouble for at Disney are really, really crazy, but they are just very strict. And like, that's why they're such a world-class company. And like, so it's hard. There's so many things you have to keep reminding yourself, but it's a pro because it's such an amazing place that so many people want to work at. So if you like look at it that way, you're like, wow, it's so amazing that I get to do that. Because if I don't want to serve like Disnugs, then there's like a million other people that want to serve Disnugs. So it's just hard. It's all about perspective in anything in life. So
absolutely. All right. So let's wrap up with speed round of favorites, and we'll do DCP edition, and then any additional DCP thoughts that you want to share.
Okay.
So, what is your favorite place that you've worked? We'll say like in your entire DCP and CM time.
So on my DCP, I only worked at Boatwrights and I loved it. I loved Port Orleans Riverside. I recommended that you guys stay there when you guys came last time because it's such a beautiful resort. It's so spread out and I love their quick service location. I feel like there's something for everybody. They have really good food. So I really, really loved it there. I loved Port Orleans Riverside. I feel like it really helped me get into like my Southern Belle mentality because I was like, I'm never going to say y'all. I'm from Boston because I was supposed to greet people with, hey, y'all. Like that was like part of the, decorum there.
Yep.
And I was like, absolutely not. That word's never coming out of my mouth. I've lived in Florida now 7 or 8 years and I'm like, oh, like, what are y'all up to? I can't even believe I say that. Anyways, so definitely, the only place I worked was Port Orleans Riverside. Even though I had my issues with it as like staffing and hours went, I would not change a thing. But in all of Disney wise, definitely my favorite place I ever worked was at Tiffin's, which was my most recent location.
And if you didn't end up a server at Boatwrights and you could pick any role to have during your DCP, what would you have picked?
My whole Disney career, I really wanted to work at the water parks. The vibe there is just so chill. It's like still Disney, but like it's so like relaxed. Everyone there wears like a polo shirt and bathing suit shorts, and it's just like so much more relaxed. So I always really wanted to work at the water parks. I really wanted to be a slide operator. Like I just wanted to sit at the top of the water slide with my feet in the water all day and just tell people go. Like that's really what I wanted to do. Yeah. I didn't want to be a lifeguard. That's way too much pressure. I just wanted to be a slide operator. So that would have been like one of my like dream roles. I did go all the way to New York City for a DCP audition.
For what?
To be a character performer, because that is a role you can do on the college program, but you can only do it if you go to an audition and make it all the way to the end.
Wow. I did not know that.
Yeah. So me and my mom, maybe Jackie too, I can't really remember. We went to New York City and I auditioned and there was like a billion people there. It was insane. I think I got cut after the first round. I was like, they're gonna pick me. Like, I'm gonna be Cinderella. And I got cut.
Do you remember what the audition process was like?
Oh, yeah. You went in and you got your number. And they also took your height because in Disney Performer Land, that's a really big thing. Because there's also your height, which is like your real height. And then your Disney height, which I feel like a lot of people don't want to admit to. If they like you,
it's like in pro
they're
sports.
Gonna like, yeah, if they like you, like they're going to be like, oh no, like she's definitely like 5'6", like she's absolutely like princess height or whatever. Or like, if you're just like maybe 2 inches too tall to be like Wendy or, Mickey Mouse or whatever, like there's your height and then there's like your Disney height. So if they like you, they're going to like maybe put you as taller or shorter, whatever they want you to be. So they measure your height and then there are several rounds of different like things you have to do. So first they teach you like a pretty simple like 16 count dance, which is like jazz hand type moves, very like quintessential parade moves. And you're doing that while you're like walking towards them. So you do it like several times until you like get to them, and then that's it. Then you go to the back and like everyone does it. So that you're broken up into several different groups. So if you make it through that, the next step is animation. Because they want to see how you could like animate something, because, you know, as a fur performer, you don't speak, everything is like nonverbal. So how can you bring together a scene to life without actually saying anything?
Right.
So they could give you something like planting a tree. So they want to see like how animated you can be, like, or something random like that. Or like you're a zoologist, like trying to like feed an animal or something. So how creative and animated can you be, like telling the story without actually using words? And then if you make it through, then they do like a more advanced dance. And that is to more find people that potentially they're looking at for a face character. Because if you make it through that, then what they do is they line you up and they have an iPad here. So you can't really see like what they're swiping through, but they're comparing your face to like a character. Because not necessarily do you look like that character, but for a face performer, you have to look like all the other girls that also are friends with that character. So they're looking for like very specific
Like
set of facial features. Yeah. Because they don't want any child to be like, oh, I met Cinderella this morning at Opera Shoes. And then you meet her in the hall and she like looks completely different.
Right.
So they're trying to find like a very specific set of like facial features. They always say that in the auditions. They're like, that doesn't mean you don't necessarily look like that character, but maybe you don't look like all the other girls that we already have cast that are friends with that character. So that's like the whole audition process. So you make it down to the end. And if you make it to the very end, they're like, okay, well, we'll let you know when you get accepted. You find out if you're a character performer. So if you've already been accepted, then you can get another offer letter and you can switch to character performer. Or if you haven't been accepted yet, you could get an offer as a character performer. So either your role will change or that will just be the role that you get. So, but that's a very hard role to get because you have to like make it through the audition process.
That's wild. So you were at Boat Rights. You loved your costume there. What do you think is the best costume out of any position in Disney World?
Oh, that's a really good question. Well, fun fact about me is that I hate pants and I also hate shorts. I wear dresses 99% of the time. I call pants and shorts thigh prisons. I don't like things hugging my legs. I have been super lucky where I've never really had to wear a costume that was pants or shorts. Boat Rights was a dress. Then I went to the Grand Floridian Cafe, which was like a really fun circle skirt and like cute grandma wallpaper print shirt with another like cute apron. Then I was a manager, so I got to wear my own clothes. I did have to wear the dreaded flag Epcot shirt and white shorts while I was in training, and it was absolutely awful. Then I got to wear my own clothes, so I would wear like circle skirts every single day or dresses and just like cute shirts. And then I went to Tiffin's, and that's a skirt and a shirt, which is totally fine. But my favorite costume, oh my God. Okay, this is so weird. But I have always loved the Pecos Bill costumes. They wear the white shirts with the square neckline that have like the green and blue floral and then like the green or blue skirt.
Yeah.
I just think I would look so cute in that costume. I love square necklines. I just feel like it's my style. Like I would love to wear that costume. I've always loved that costume. Another costume that's really pretty is the Fantasyland costumes, like the blue and purple costumes that are very like regal, but they have a lot of parts to them. So I feel like it would almost be like a cheerleading uniform where everything hugs you in this, like right underneath your boobs and you get like a stomach ache. Yeah. So that's my worry with that costume. A lot of the skirt combo outfits that it was kind of like the cheerleading uniform situation. If you know, you know. Yeah. Everything would meet at the exact same spot and just like squeeze you to death. Yep. So that happens a lot with the Disney costumes. But I randomly really love the Pecos Bill costumes. Like it's very random.
What would you say is the worst costume that a CM has to wear? Because some of them, like you said, they're not always cute.
Honestly, like any of them where it's like pants and a shirt. The pants are just very like ill-fitting. They're all like supposed to be like universal. It's impossible. Oh my God. Disney sizing is like not real sizing. So if you ever want to like feel really horrible about yourself, just go to costuming. Because you'll leave with 6 different size skirts that all fit the same, but one of them is like a 22 and one of them is like a 0. Like the sizing literally makes no sense at all.
Welcome to female clothing sizing for any guys listening. That's what it's like.
Yeah, it's really bad. Like the days you would like have to go to costuming when you're like at a new location, like hold your breath and just remember that like it's just a number on the inside of a tag. It has nothing to do with who you are as a person or like your worth. It doesn't correlate to that. Like that's always what I would have to like remind myself, because Disney sizing, as we just learned about height as well, apparently your Disney weight and your real weight and size are very different. It's crazy.
Oh, man. All right. Last one for favorites. What would you say is the best perk about being in the Disney College program?
I would say the best perk about being in the Disney College program is definitely all the special college program activities that you can do. So for the spring program, they have the Starlight Splash, which is where they close down one of the water parks for the night and it's only open for the college programmers.
So fun.
Yeah, so they have that for the spring program. And for the fall program, they have like a homecoming dance. So just like you'd have like homecoming at home.
Yeah.
So they have like a huge homecoming dance. So for my college program, they like did the whole Coronado like convention center, like big ballroom with tons of food, and like Mickey and Minnie were there in like really fancy dresses. And it was just so fun. So there's like lots of opportunities to do things like that are like special for the college program kids, and just being able to go into the parks whenever you want. Like that's just nothing you get to experience before. Like no Disney like local kids really do the college program unless they really want to get their foot in the door.
Yeah.
And didn't have an opportunity to before. So it's mostly kids from all over the country who like went as kids and like loved it or had never been, just really loved Disney culture or whatever. So just like all the perks of just living at Disney that you don't get to have unless you do the college program.
I love it. All right.
Yeah.
And do you have a favorite magic moment from your DCP?
So my favorite moment on my DCP, like the most meaningful moment I had, which circles back to why I love working at resorts, because you got to see the same families and like make really big connections with them. So this is like another like story that like will make people cry. But we had a husband and wife that were in from the UK. And the one thing to know about families that come to visit from the UK is that they will come for a minimum of 2 weeks. So they always come for a long time because it's really far away and like they have to make the best of it. It's specifically families from the UK that would always come for like 2+ weeks. So we had a husband and a wife that came in to eat at boat rides every single night of their trip. And they always wanted to sit at the same table. And it took a couple nights for us to realize that the wife had really bad dementia. So she couldn't remember like eating there the night before or what she had. And we always wanted to like make that same experience for her. And every single night we would sing her happy birthday and it would be this whole thing. And by the end, like it was so emotional because the husband was super emotional about it.
Right.
The wife didn't really know because she like had trouble remembering like what had been going on like every single day. So it was just like very emotional to like be able to make that experience for the husband because he saw how much it meant to his wife to be able to like relive that.
Right.
Even though she wasn't reliving it, she was like basically living it for the first time, but just getting to do that for her every single day of their trip was like really special. And then I have one more. This one is such a crazy story that I had to like go backstage and just cry about it because it was unbelievable. So I had a family that checked in at the podium because I was actually a hostess. I was not a server on the college program. You can't do tipped roles on the college program. You're not allowed to accept tips. I had someone that checked in and they were kind of like looking at me funny, and I sat them at their table and, you know, they had to wait a few minutes for their table, and the woman was kind of staring at me for a while. I'm like, why is she staring at me? So I'm like, oh God, now I have to seat them at their table. Anyone else want to take them?
Yeah.
So we got up to the table and she asked me if I was from Massachusetts. And I was like, yeah, I'm from Massachusetts. And she goes, what's your last name? And I was like, oh, my last name is Vining. And she's like, oh my God, you're Steven's daughter. And like knew my dad. And like then she started asking me, yeah, she was like, oh my God, like you haven't changed. Like you've grown. You're so beautiful, blah, blah, blah. And then like asked me about my dad. And my dad passed away in 2007. So breaking that news was like really, really hard because she didn't know. I think that she knew my dad from like when he lived in Salisbury and like maybe just knew me from when I would like visit him there. But it was just such a weird like coincidence that she would come and eat at that restaurant while I was there. And I sat her and she recognized me and like knew my dad. It was just such a weird thing, but it was almost like I'm such a person where I'm like, that's like a sign. It's like from them. Like anytime I see a butterfly, I'm like, hi dad. Like I will be on a walk, and Brian's used to it at this point. But at first he was like, that's a butterfly. Yeah. He knows now. If I don't say it, he's like, why didn't you say hi? Like, so butterflies, cardinals, like the normal stuff. But it was just like a really weird sign. And for me, it felt like a very full circle moment because I can't remember if I said it in this episode or the last one, but like Disney helps me feel really close to my dad because he really loved it too. So it just feels like this lingering connection that I have to him. So it was one of those weird full circle moments where I was like, okay, like he knows that I'm here. This is where I'm supposed to be. This person was like sent here for a reason. It was very like comforting, but it was very emotional. Because it was like still very raw. It wasn't that many years that had passed. Well, probably like 7 years, but still it was very raw.
And I'm sure that was such a surprise that you were like, I'm sorry, what? Like I am literally
I was
on
like,
the
who are you?
end of the coast.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard too, like being the youngest. People would always be like, do you remember me? And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
But yeah, so those were definitely two like magical moments. One was that we made for a guest, and one was that a guest made for me, which is special.
And I think it's also really important to remember that, like, whether you are working somewhere or you're visiting somewhere or you're there for a long period of time, you can make magic for the cast members as well. They love to interact and create a great, engaging experience. And like you said, you're going to remember that just like they would.
There's a lot of guests too, not a lot, but like a good amount of guests that will make like cast member gifts. Doesn't have to be anything big. It would be like a little card, like their kids would write a bunch of little cards, like, thank you for helping make our trip magical, that they would give to a cast member that like served them or that they had a good experience with. And like, I don't think that people understand the gravity that like those things hold. That could sometimes be like the string that keeps me hanging on, like at the end of like a long double, like this little kid running up to me and be like, thank you for making our trip so magical. Or like if they do anything that's like handmade, like they make keychains for Etsy or whatever it is, like some people will bring a bunch with them and give it as like thank you gifts to cast members with like a little tag attached that's like just with some ribbon like written out on construction paper that says like thank you or whatever for like all your hard work.
Cute.
Yeah, I've had like a handful of like those types of experiences, and like I have all of that stuff. I have kept everything because at the end of the DCP, you also get like a leather box that you can put like a lot of your like memories in. So like I still have my leather box and everything.
And that's such a great send-off gift too of, hey, we know that this was a really, or hope, I'm sure that it's like a really memorable, magical experience. We want you to make sure that you keep what you can and put it into something special like that.
Yeah, because there's just so many like special things that you get as a cast member that like you don't see on the guest side. When Shanghai Disneyland opened, they gave out buttons to all of us, the big metal buttons, you know, like the I'm celebrating buttons.
Yep.
I have so many special buttons that like you would never get as like a guest that they gave us as cast members to be able to like commemorate stuff. And I was actually really disappointed for the 50th anniversary that they didn't give out buttons to the guests.
Yeah.
Because for the 45th anniversary, you got a special commemorative map and a button that says like I was here for like the 45th birthday. So I was really disappointed to see that they didn't do that for the 50th. It made no sense to me because they did it for the 60th at Disneyland, maybe a COVID thing, because those things are like not special to every cast member, but like people like me who have kept all those things. Like I happened to be on my college program when Magic Bands rolled out. So I have a special commemorative box of like the first Magic Bands that they ever made. So we got a special box with the first Magic Band. Like we got to pick what color we wanted. And then we got it in a special box that around the box had the whole history of Disney and like how we got to the technology of Magic Bands. Those commemorative things you just don't get as a guest that are so special. Like one of the biggest deciding factors and heartbreaking reasons that I felt so heartbroken about not going back to Disney after COVID was not being there for the 50th anniversary and not getting that iridescent name tag. Because when I did the college program, me and Eddie, my best friend, still my best friend to this day, was that we wanted to stay and work through the 50th anniversary. Like that was a goal that we set when we were little DCPers in 2014. And it was just really hard because I mean, I just couldn't have predicted my life to like change the way that it did.
Right.
You know, I'd never thought I'd be doing what I do now. So it was really hard to like say no to that because I really, really wanted that experience because I like told myself I would do it, but it's just hard because you just can't plan your life. Like you just don't know how things are going to go. So I know I just really, really wanted that iridescent name tag because I just cherish my name tags. Like I still have all my name tags, like the one that says when you're on the college program, that's how you can find a person on the DCP is that it won't say their hometown and it will say their college. So it said like Katie Fisher College instead of like Katie Medford, Mass, which is the one I got after I finished the college program.
Yep. And that's actually something we didn't talk about in either episode that I think is a really great question to add. Talk a little bit about the name tags because that's something that's really special and important all the way around from DCP to CMs to different awards and things that people can kind of like be recognized through their name tag. So talk a little bit about like how that works and why those are so special to people in Disney.
So your name tag, you specifically like wear it over your heart. So that's where that kind of starts. Like a traditional name tag, it's just going to say your name and your hometown. You can do a nickname. So for me, mine said Katie, even though my real name is Caitlin. And then it just says Medford, Mass, but you can get it. Like I could have gotten it switched to Florida. You can like put a different place. There are also like specialty name tags. Like the first specialty name tag ever was the ones from Star Wars Land, which were like really, really cool. Like if you're ever in Galaxy's Edge, definitely check out their name tags. They're completely different than everybody else's. But on a name tag, there's an opportunity where you can pop buttons into it. So there's special pins that you can get for that. And there's different like celebratory pins. So after you work at Disney for a year, and technically your time on the college program does not count towards your Disney time, which is complete bullshit.
Yeah.
Because in my opinion, the college programmers work harder than anyone. You're working the worst shifts, the longest hours, working overtime, that sort of thing. So to me, it makes no sense that your college program does not count towards like your service hours. But anyways, I digress. So once you start as like a regular cast member, once you hit a year, you get a little button, which is like a little Mickey. And that just means like you've been with the company for a year. Then there are other buttons that you can add. Like once you hit 5 years, you get a different one. 10 years, you get a different one, but you just switch out the one that you have. There are new things that they are rolling out. So they're trying to really push volunteering right now, volunteering with EAR at the end, like ear, like, so they're trying to push that. So with the new iridescent name tags, if you hit like 50 volunteer hours, you can get a special button that you can wear on your name tag, which is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
There's also buttons for like, if you ever notice someone that has a little thing under their name tag that says earning my ears, it'll be like a little like a ribbon almost. And it's a burgundy ribbon, and in gold, it says earning my ears. That means that they're training.
I always tell those CMs that they're doing a great job.
Yeah, it's so overwhelming.
They always look
working
so
at
stressed.
It's because it's so stressful. Like working at Disney is like, take any job you've ever done and just make it 70 times more complicated and stressful. And like, that's working at Disney. There's also like service buttons, very, very low amount of people. I met someone that had this pin on their name tag and I'm like, what is that? They worked at the Plaza ice cream shop. I'll never forget. They had this little heart pin on their name tag.
Mm-hmm.
They actually gave the Heimlich and saved someone's life.
Whoa.
And so they got a very special pin for their name tag for like doing that. I think they said only like 9 people in the whole company had that pin on their name tag, which is really crazy. So there's definitely like lots of different things going on with the name tag, lots of different like opportunities to like earn personalizations to it. You can also see underneath some people's name tags if they speak other languages. It will have like an addition onto the bottom that says like English and French, or English and ASL, whatever languages they speak. So that's really helpful for guests who don't speak English or need someone that speak ASL. Normally in every location, you can like find someone that speaks pretty much every language, which is super helpful.
Yeah.
There's never someone too far away that you can't like make it work, which I think is really good because I think it helps people like feel very included.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Disney definitely loves it when people are like multilingual or bilingual or trilingual or anything, because that makes the guest experience a lot better.
Yeah. And so definitely as you go to Disney World or Disneyland or any of the parks, check out people's name tags, because you'll see some really, like Katie was just talking about, like the different pins or locations, the different colors, because I know there's the Legacy Award.
Yeah. So if you see someone with a solid blue name tag, that means they won the Legacy Award, which means like you are like carrying on Walt's legacy.
The last trip that I went on, because I always look at their name tags, and I was like, oh, that person has a blue name tag. I was like, what? And I asked our server, I was like, how come that person has a blue name tag? I said, I've never seen one of those before. And she told me all about it. I was like, that is so cool. Like, and I just think that's such a fun, personalized touch and a great way for you to interact with cast members and be like, oh, you're from the Boston area. Oh, you're from New England. Me too. Or like you said, tell me about that pin. I haven't seen that before. Like, it's a great way to start personalized conversations with cast members.
Yeah. The Legacy Award is so cool. That is the 4 keys I was talking about. You have to be like nominated for the Legacy Award, and there's like a whole like panel that like chooses people, and like you have to have all these recommendations, but it's normally like a big surprise. Like the person typically like doesn't know. I will say, I feel like a lot more people are getting it now than like I don't feel like they used to give out as many as they do now. I know a couple people that have it. It was like always such a big dream of mine. Like I feel like my Disney story, like it's on pause right now, but I don't feel like it's over forever. There's still like a lot of things I wanted to do, just didn't get the chance to do, like be a traditions facilitator. So being a traditions facilitator is something that a cast member can only do once in their entire Disney career. It's like a 1-year thing that you can do, and you only get to do it once. So they're always like, well, choose wisely, like when you apply and like when you want to do it, because you only get the opportunity to do it once. That way, like a lot of cast members can have the opportunity to do it if they want to. Because it's so fun. You're like the first face that people really see, like the first like taste they get of like Disney. So the traditions facilitators are always like the nicest, like happiest, most excited people. And I was like, yeah, I want to do that someday.
I love it. Any other DCP knowledge you want to drop before we wrap this up?
I would say if you want to do the college program, do it. Apply, do it. Don't be scared. It's so easy to be like, oh, it's so far away and I have to like, stop my whole life to go do it. But you just never know like the life that could be waiting for you on the other side of your DCP. So I just never thought I would still be here. Like, it's just so crazy, but I just can't imagine my life anywhere else. Like, even not working here and not working at Disney anymore, like, it's just the only place I can imagine living. But yeah, I don't know. Orlando to me just feels like home. And I know that's like not the same for everybody. Like my older sister Jen, she came and lived here and she did it for a year and was like, all right, I'm good. I got the Orlando experience. And for me, I feel like it took me a couple years to even experience Orlando outside of Disney because there's so much to do in Orlando outside of Disney, which we'll definitely talk about on a future episode where I talk more about being a local Disney World
Yes.
like goer, like a pass holder, because that's a whole different experience. There's definitely a lot to be explored. So come do the college program, apply. If you don't get in, apply again. It's not easy, but it's worth it.
Ugh, that is like the most perfect way to wrap this episode up. So Katie, thank you so much for coming on and sharing all of your DCP knowledge. If people want to connect with you, find you on the internet, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Katie Vining. They also do DCP referrals. So if you were wanting to do the DCP, you can just reach out to me and you can put me on your application.
Amazing.
I am in great standing with the company, so you can do that. Or if you just want to know more about the college program, or if you have questions or anything like that, you can definitely reach out to me on Instagram at Katie Vining. Or if you just love Target and home goods and home decor, you can find me over on YouTube. Same thing, youtube.com/Katie Vining.
Amazing. And like Katie mentioned, we've kind of like sprinkled throughout. I'm going to try to get Katie on as much as possible. So you will see her definitely on future episodes. If there are questions that you have for her on DCP, being a cast member, being a local to Walt Disney World, annual pass holder, Universal Studios even, Katie does Universal as well, send them over. We will ask on future episodes and stick around because they're going to be great.
For sure. Thanks for having me.